Okay, so this is my spoiler review of the new thriller, The Rental. This is Dave Franco's directorial debut. He also wrote the screenplay with Joe Swanberg. This is a film with 4 main players in it that has a really strong cast in Dan Stevens, Alison, Brie, Jeremy Allen White, and Sheila Vond, with some incredible dog acting from Reggie. In interviews, Dave Franco has been open about that this film was inspired by his fear of Airbnbs and rentals of homes that are just given to you by strangers that you just trust from certain good reviews. He has a fear he talks about privacy in these situations, and that, like we see in the film, any little thing that could be going on, like a little tiny camera in a shower, you never know. So that's where the horror of this film is set, and the goal of it is to make you scared of that thought of someone watching you and just you trusting a stranger so easily. Where the strength in the film comes with characters and conflict is actually in the theme of adultery and lying, and how the actions of 2 people affects the whole group, and it becomes a snowball effect. And that when you lie, it quickly leads to another lie and never stops, and everyone ends up paying for it. For this being a directorial debut for Franco, this is really good. What shows is that he is a man who's grown up in this industry. He's been around a lot of big names that he clearly got mentored from, so you see that right away. Being his first film, it doesn't feel like that. There's a lot of confidence here, and every camera shot has purpose. You see that from the bat with the establishing shot of seeing the cliff where the water is, which will be where they throw Taylor off later on, and where Mina will face her pending doom. And it's interesting because you see right from the first scene where we see Charlie and Mina in this office partnership, but they're very touchy, there's chemistry there, and then you're like, whoa, when Josh comes in, you find out they're brothers, and he's the one actually dating her. So Franco does a good job of kind of keeping you off guard about what's really going on with this weird kind of dynamic between these 2 brothers and this girl, and they're both clearly in love with her, and then you find out that Charlie's actually married to Alison Brie's character in Michelle. Now, it's obviously predictable that Mina and Charlie were going to have an affair here. They're showing you that writing on the wall from the start, but I think it was purposely so obvious because that wasn't supposed to be this surprise, shocking moment. That was supposed to just develop into a big storyline, causing all these suspenseful events to happen later on with the killer and opening the door for the killer schemes to play out. And it also serves to the theme of this killer kind of being like the Jigsaw killer from the Saw films, where he has some method to his madness, but also has some kind of moral belief here we kind of get hints at, where he doesn't just kill these people, he wants to expose the bad in them. And before he kills Michelle and Josh, he wants them to see the truth. So is there some good to it, or is it actually worse getting to see these awful truths and then you die? So you get a horrible image of humanity before you go out. So maybe where the predictability didn't work as well was actually Taylor, the man who is selling the rental home to them, being such a predictable red herring. You knew from the start he was going to be the red herring. It would have been too easy and ridiculous if he ended up being the bad guy here, because they were making it too obvious at that point if he was. So you just knew as a result that no way is he the bad guy. So it was, I wish they kind of made it a little more, get you to think maybe he actually is the guy. That kind of took away a little suspense, but what worked really well here was establishing sympathy for the characters of Josh and Michelle, especially in the beach scene where they're walking together, observing the behavior of Charlie and Mina. And what Franco does good is that he shows you a lot of point of view perspectives from people, and he sits on a lot of people. He lets the camera stay one take on somebody's reaction shots. He's more about the reactions than the actual actions in this film. And I think that worked well to get inside the characters' heads. He also puts little drops of humor in there, which comes from his real-life wife, Alison Brie, who plays Michelle. You feel for Michelle this whole way through, and she's on a different schedule than everyone else, and she's having a horrible time because of it. They want to do drugs when she doesn't, and then when she wants to do drugs, everyone's just out of it. Another good humorous moment here is when they actually first take the drugs, and Charlie's dancing with the dog. I thought that was hysterical. And Franco really does a good job with this fog here, starting to add the eeriness to it, and really good staging and blocking in this scene where we have this big moment in the hot tub with Mina and Charlie, where there's actually just suspense, where you know the cheating is going to happen. It's a matter of when. And they do a good job with them first just trading using the jets and then sharing it and then leading up to this big betrayal. And Reggie the dog is so important here. He's not just there to be cute. He's a huge part of the symbolism in this film. That happens because right when the affair happens in the hot tub, he starts to bark. It's just showing you that Reggie here is the symbolism of innocence and is lost at that moment in our group. And you see the next day, after the affair, this is when Reggie goes missing. And why a little shot of Reggie just playing with a football is so important the next day to then seeing him gone. That little innocent figure. And it pays off in the end, because my favorite moment of the film is actually at the end when Reggie comes back and he's with the killer, and the killer doesn't kill him. He never killed the dog, and he didn't want to in the end because he was this little innocent guy. I thought that was a huge, effective, chilling scene and thought out well. And he purposely selected his point of view shots well from the killer. It actually is first hinted at when we see an overhead shot of Michelle in bed, and then the big one is when it's really obvious it's the killer here watching them, is when he's watching them at the hot tub having this affair. So his point of view shots are important because they're not just him scouting out when he's going to kill these people, it's him scouting out the right timing and catching them in their worst moments. That goes to when Michelle goes on the hike with Josh, and Michelle finds out more about her husband. She didn't know that he's pretty much a serial cheater. And that hits on that theme where sometimes we date someone when they're with somebody else and you think you're the special one and it's not going to happen to you, but most of the time people repeat their behavior, and that's what starts to scare her about her husband. And we see Charlie falls into that most unlikable person here in the movie. He is a serial liar besides just being a serial cheater. When Mina finds the camera in the shower, she has a smart decision, so just let's call the cops, do the right thing. And Charlie's first reaction is no, because then they're going to find out about the affair. So he puts that first. It's a selfish decision that just leads to more chaos and just lets this killer's schemes work into his play. Mina's just as guilty as Charlie here, and they're both fine with covering up the affair, even though they know doing that is having Michelle and Josh be spied on when they're showering that day. It's creepy. And I mean, Alison Brie absolutely kills it here with the humor. I thought another great scene was her just when she's on the Molly, just teasing Taylor with his butt crack. That was a really nice moment. It adds relief throughout this, and it makes you like her more and more, so you feel worse for her as this goes on, where she's so out of the loop. And you see where Mina really screws up is actually where she accuses Taylor of completely being convinced he's the one who put the camera up there. When he was actually starting to be nice to her, he's saying that he hopes she actually finds her dog, and she kind of just lets anger run her better judgment here, and that just starts a chain of effects where Josh thinks Taylor's actually hurting Mina, and then his anger comes out that was hinted at the whole film. But you feel for Josh still, because he didn't actually kill this guy, and he's defending Mina, thinking something else is going on, but Mina's not telling Josh the whole truth here. And then he gets screwed over because this perfectly works to the killer, where it's cleverly written that the killer actually goes and kills Taylor himself to really frame Josh and cause even more chaos between these four people. And a big moment for characters with Michelle and Charlie is how opposite they are in the horror. She's realizing more and more about her husband, how much of really a selfish, lying person he is, and her saying, let's call the cops. And he's like, no, we can get away with this, protect our brother from going to jail. But Michelle's the most genuine here. And she's like, I know we can get away with it. I don't want to get away with it. I don't want to live with that. But you see Mina and Charlie, the way they're able to hold their affair and hold on to that without saying anything is the same way they're ready to lie about this murder. So it does show you that difference in characters, and it works really well. I also really like how Franco revealed to Michelle's character the shower footage. That as Michelle, we're thinking the shower's on in one shower, and then she checks the other shower, but then she finds the footage on the TV. I thought that was really clever. And once she sees this footage, this is where we first see the killer's masked face, and the Michael Myers show begins. I thought it was funny, the scene where they're kind of throwing this rock to push Taylor into the ocean because they messed up on the original throw of his body. But it dragged a little bit here for the sake of humor that maybe wasn't even necessary. And that would be my only critique in the debut of Franco's film, is I think his pacing is a little wonky and can get a little more tighter and pick up a little quicker. A lot of thrillers and horrors that come out now like doing this thing where halfway through in the movie things pick up. And that's fine. You want to earn to get to that quicker pace and build up your characters, but I do think it's still really slow at parts before that, and they gotta wind it up a little earlier. But that's me nitpicking, and it's not something that I think was too detrimental to the film. I do wish having to wait for big payoff with the kills. You want clever kills in an audience. You've seen a lot of slashers before. You've seen people chasing people down, so you want the big payoff in the actual killing. I only think we got one of those which was with Mina. I thought it was really cool how she ended up dying, running off the cliff and through the fog. So it spoke volumes, it connected to her character well, and it was a certain karma to it. That's why I wish Charlie, who's the most unlikable hero, got the best death, and it was just him getting hit by a hammer, as the other two characters did as well. So that was a little bland and could have been more creative. And there was a weird head-scratching moment that was just strange to me. I did not understand was when Josh actually gets through this door with Mina, and they're looking through the boxes, and Josh just finds these pictures, and we as the audience don't see them. Clearly, we don't really know what he saw there. And Mina's like, what are those? And he's like, Jesus, you don't want to know. Okay, that's a weird line to throw in there because we never get an answer on that. What was the point of that? That was strange. And why wouldn't he tell Mina? But worked effectively emotionally in the scene was Josh hugging her, saying he's a piece of crap to Mina. And you feel for Josh again because this is a big moment. Mina could have been honest with him about the affair and maybe made him feel a little better about himself, but she doesn't, and he doesn't know about the affair, which is a vital info to all this, and he doesn't know that he actually didn't kill Taylor. So it works to serve that purpose of this theme about how actions of just two people affect the whole group and bad decisions, and that Mina and Charlie just keep repeating these mistakes of lying. So after the killer ends up killing the four main players here, I like the creepy moment of him looking in the mirror with his mask on. And like I said before, my favorite moment was a dog running into the killer. Clearly, Franco did not want to show you the face of the killer because he wants to keep that eeriness and truth to it, that killers like this that just peeping Tom people and kill them from afar, you never see their face. So he wants to keep that effect to make you think about it later on after watching the film. So I think that was actually a smart choice. Might frustrate some viewers though, because in movies like this, you kind of want some kind of twist or explanation of to who this killer was. So it's a tough sell, but I understand it to work with the theme of this movie. And Franco clearly wants to show in this last montage, when we're seeing him go to different rental places, the killer, how easy it is for him to set something like this up and how it can happen so much. And just a warning to us as an audience to really be careful trusting strangers to be the people housing you. So to me, this is a really excellent directorial debut. It feels like, if you look at great directors in the past who've made great films, it feels like a lot of their debuts in the sense of there's a lot of potential here for some greatness to come in his future films. I think that's going to happen. I think this is really, really good for a first film. It's a solid thriller. It has great acting. The performances shine. And it has some really good suspense in what you want in a thriller towards the end. I just think the pacing was a little off, and that could be worked on in his future films. But thematically, it sets a goal, it accomplished its goal, and you're invested the whole time. And it really is few and far between with thrillers and horrors right now to have such an edge of your seat ending, so I thought that worked really well. So I'm giving this one an 8.7. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, I got to interview Jeremy Allen White himself, who plays Josh in this film, and you probably know him as Lip Gallagher from Shameless. It was a really fun chat I got with him, so please check that out. It'll be linked below. And please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews or celebrity interviews. And please follow me at SteveVarley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And I'll see you next time.